Hi, my name's Steve and welcome to the Seaside Allotment channel, and today's something a little bit different. Lots of people have asked me actually to talk a little bit about the allotment life and its effect on my auto-inflammatory condition that I had when I retired about 4 years ago, and how the allotment life has kind of helped me sort that out. And it's not a topic that I like talking about very much because it brings back bad memories, but I thought I'd give it a go. Anyway, I kind of, the way I like to think about it is that now I live this allotment centered life, and the allotment is it is at the sort of center of lots of my days, but there's lots of other things going on in my life that the allotment centered life has enabled, and I highly recommend it. And so I'll just give you a little bit of the backstory, and then I'll go through the sort of factors that I think have impacted my recovery. You take with that as you will, because everybody's unique, and the approach that's worked for me might not work for you, and in fact it might have just been a complete coincidence that this approach worked for me, and it might have been nothing to do with that. I might have just gone into remission anyway. But okay, so the backstory probably started adult onset Still's disease, which is auto-inflammatory condition. It's in the Arthritis family. Happened about, I don't know, something like 20 years ago, something like that now, and was a part of my daily life. Basically, I was really ill, probably about 25% of the time, fairly ill probably 50% of the time, and reasonably okay for 25% of the time, and then completely okay for the other 25%. So I might throw up a little pie chart just so those figures, but basically it wasn't great. Tried to make the best of it, carried on working. That might not have been the best thing to do. I got lots of people saying to me, sort of medical professionals and the like, it's better to keep on working, it's really better for your mental health and that sort of thing to keep on working. Personally, I think perhaps the allotment centered life would have been a lot better therapeutic approach than carrying on working, but anyway, I tried to do that. I reduced my hours, modified the job to reduce the stress, got lots more flexibility built into my work schedule, and it helped no end. Now, so let's just look at a little bit what adult onset Still's disease is. As I say, it's an auto-inflammatory condition. It's in the arthritis family. It results in really severe muscle, joint, tendon pain. Really, in my case, the muscle and tendon pain was probably worse than the joint pain. You have these really bad flares, you have really high temperatures, really low temperatures, really bad night sweats, so your sleep's massively disrupted. As I say, masses of pain all the way through the day, moves around all over the place as well, so you never know from one day to the next whether your leg's not going to be working, or your shoulders aren't going to be working, or your jaw's not going to be working, your feet not going to be working, your hands not going to be working. You just can't plan at all. Every day you kind of wake up in the morning and you see what hurts and see what you can do that day. Sometimes, in fact quite frequently, you kind of get stranded, so you can, in the morning you can drive to work, but then in the afternoon you can't get back from work, all these sorts of things. So it's very disruptive. Big rash over your body. Can be really intense at all. It's sort of again very variable, and crushing brain fog. Something you just can't think. You just can't remember three numbers. Can't remember two numbers sometimes. Like 1, 2. You can't. What was that? And so just dialing the telephone was just really difficult. You had to sort of like remember, look at each number, press it. Look at each number, press it, sort of thing. It was just really difficult. Memory was kind of really badly disrupted as well, and I was an IT and business strategist, so you can imagine it's just an absolute nightmare for me. I had to develop all sorts of different coping strategies. How do I deliver presentations when I can't remember what I'm talking about, this sort of thing. But that's another topic for another day, all these coping strategies, and there's loads of stuff about that on my blog, how I managed all that. But basically, in the end, I just gave up with the battle of trying to work about 4 years ago, and decided to retire. Best thing I ever did. And I was very fortunate that for the sort of the whole 16 years that I've been working with this disease, I had been saving as much as I could, so I was able to retire. And so retired, still suffering. I was having this incredible itchy rash all over all of my body. It was driving me absolutely bonkers. After I'd retired, I was still having flares, and like lots of people who have these really serious sort of very, very painful conditions, you end up with fibromyalgia as well, which is a nerve condition, overstimulation of the nerves, I think. Nobody's fully sort of understands fibromyalgia, but my sort of take on it is that, when you're in pain for hundreds of days a year for decades, it damages the nerves, and the nerves start to be painful anyway, even if there's no actual adult onset Still's disease kind of auto-inflammatory activity going on. But there's a whole other package of things that go with fibromyalgia. All sorts of brain fog and constipation and all sorts of stuff. There's like dozens of different things, and they're basically a package of things that tend to happen to people who don't move around very much, don't sleep very well, are in pain all the time, don't eat very well. Because that's kind of what happens. When you've got these sorts of conditions. So I'm retired. I kind of decided that I wouldn't go chasing cures. Because there's so many, you just search on the internet, there's so many people selling you things that are the miracle cure for these autoimmune, auto-inflammatory conditions. And I thought, well, I could waste a lot of time and spend a lot of money trying to follow all these different sort of miracle cures. I decided I wasn't going to do that. What I was just going to do was I was just going to live well. I was just going to let my body heal itself at its natural pace. I was just going to do all the basic things right, and so that's what I did, and the allotment has been a big part of that. So broadly speaking, these are the few things that I did. So I really focused on my nutrition, and I tried to remove toxins from my diet and my environment as well, and get really optimal levels of all the nutrients, and I'll talk about all these things in more detail in a minute. I tried to improve my movement a lot. I didn't do exercise per se, I just tried to move around a lot throughout the day. Tried to improve my sleep, and I think that's really important. I mean, most health pretty much starts with good sleep, but it's a bit of a circular thing, because sometimes you're just in too much pain to sleep properly, or you've got a restless leg and you can't sleep properly, or you're overly medicated, and that means the quality of your sleep's not very good, and so you've just got to chip away at it. So you sort of improve your sleep a little bit, and then that allows you to improve other things, and then that allows you to improve your sleep a little bit, and then you improve, and you keep on going in these virtual circles. And as a general point, managing things so that you're always in a virtuous circle, just improving a little bit each day, rather than a vicious circle where things are just getting a little bit worse each day. And sometimes, of course, you do get, you're in a flare and you get into this vicious circle where things are going backwards. And the key thing is, as quickly as possible, try and stall that vicious circle and get it going in a virtuous circle again. Even if it's the tiniest movement in the right direction, just try and take each day in lots of little areas, tiny steps in that virtuous direction. And so learning to manage vicious cycles, stalling them, getting them back into virtuous cycles, that's the absolute key. Anyway, sleep. So the next thing was kind of relaxation. My job was pretty stressful. The workload wasn't that great because I'd really done a good job in managing that, but it was just competition for ideas in this company, 100,000 people, $1 billion budgets and all that, and it was just extreme competition for ideas. And I was, of course, an ideas man, and so I was trying to sell my ideas, but I was trying to sell them working 16 hours a week, competing with people who were trying to sell their ideas effectively into the company, working 60, 70 hours a week. It was a real challenge. Anyway, enough about that. So anyway, did lots of work on relaxation. I'll go on to that in a minute. So the next thing was the microbiome. Now, for decades, I've thought that the microbiome is absolutely key to lots of these autoimmune and auto-inflammatory diseases. And there's loads of research into that, but I won't go into all that. You can research that yourself. I'm just giving you some hints and tips as to what I've done. But basically, the microbiome is
the fungi and the bacteria that symbiotically and sometimes non-symbiotically, because sometimes they're damaging, but the vast majority of fungi and bacteria that you're exposed to are beneficial or neutral, and they're everywhere, and you can't get rid of them, and you shouldn't try to get rid of them. So they're on your skin. Every part of your skin is covered by bacteria, and of course they're in the gut, in the small intestine and the large intestine. They're in your mouth. They're everywhere, and they should be everywhere, and they've got to, and of course they're on every surface that you touch, everywhere. And what you want are those bacteria, that microbiome of your skin and your body, to be full of healthy bacteria, and as diverse a selection of healthy bacteria as you can possibly get. And you want the pathogenic ones to be reduced, but you don't reduce the pathogenic ones by killing the pathogenic ones. You get rid of the pathogenic ones by encouraging the good ones. And so we did lots of, our family did lots of stuff to try and improve that situation, and again the allotment played a big part in that. I'll come on to that. So the next thing is kind of just be part of nature and nature's cycles, nature's natural cycles, and just kind of learn to appreciate nature, to find beauty in nature, to kind of calm down and live at the pace of nature. And it's a beautiful way to live, in sync with the seasons, watching things grow, nurturing them through to harvest, watching the process of harvest, and eventually composting, and of course eating all that wonderful stuff. So just being part of nature is it's part of the relaxation thing, but it's also just part of being outside in the fresh air, sunlight on the skin. I've got photosensitivity as well. It's another auto-inflammatory condition, but over time my skin's kind of got used to being outside all the time, and it's just much better, much healthier. So that's really important, being part of nature. And then purpose, I think, is the last thing, because it's fine having this good life, but if there's no point to it, if you're not kind of just chilled out, sitting in your polytunnel all day making videos, then what's the point in that? And so for me, my purpose really comes from a few things, and it comes from being there for my family. It comes from feeding my friends and family, and we feed off our allotments now. Something 24 people, 25 people a year in summer, and less than that right now. I think it's about 6 families or something at the moment. And then the next thing is kind of helping people, and I make videos to try and help people, and help me as well, because I'm a person, so that's quite useful. But it started out just as a tool for me to keep track of what I was doing, a kind of allotment diary, but it's more now. It's a way to encourage people to grow year round, to grow more, and to share that with their friends and family. So that's a big part of where I get purpose from, and just learning about the world, getting better, getting more proficient at gardening, and the whole community thing, just friends and family and things like that. So that's kind of the circle of activities. I'm looking at a circle actually at the moment, just to remind me of those things, and I'll go into those things in a little bit more detail now. So the first one is nutrition, and the approach that I decided to take was try and get optimal levels of nutrition, and I actually use a tool now called Chronometer, and I'm not kind of obsessive about it, but I've modelled my diet for quite a few weeks now, to see whether I am getting optimal levels of nutrition, and I'll pop in a little snippet now that just gets me on the computer, and it shows you this Chronometer and typical diet for me. Okay, so we just break out of the video for a second, and I'll just quickly show you this app, Chronometer, and it's really cool.
it takes a bit of work to put your food in, but because you only have to do it for a week or so, and then it gives you a really good idea of what you're eating. So in my case, breakfast is a smoothie, and then lunch is my own homemade granola, lots of blackstrap molasses, and I think I'll go into this later anyway, but yeah, my own smoothie recipe, loads of nuts, no refined sugars, really healthy, or I think it is. Dinner is cooked veg with some chicken and Yorkshire puddings, and Yorkshire puddings are a great source of eggs for me, because there's only a few ways that I like eggs, and so Yorkshire puddings is one, and egg custards are another. That's kind of my kind of fairly healthy indulgence, although it does have some refined sugar in it. And then supper, big salad, and then snack would be this egg custard and an apple. And I do have a few little supplements. So I'm not a big fan of fish, so although I have fish once a week, I do supplement with an omega-3 oil. I find it quite difficult to get the amount of magnesium that I need, so I take this calcium, magnesium, zinc and vitamin D3 supplement. It's basically as cheap as just getting magnesium. I eat a lot of brassica leaves raw in smoothies, and when you do that you really need to take some supplementary iodine, and so I take sea kelp for that. I don't eat enough eggs to get all the choline that I need, so I take a little bit of choline only every sort of third day, something like that. And I also find it difficult to get enough potassium in my diet, so sometimes, again, not every day, just have a little bit of potassium citrate. And I also have difficulty metabolizing or processing the sun to get vitamin D, so I take cod liver oil as a source of vitamin D, just to help out there. A few years ago I was tested for vitamin D and I had profoundly low levels, which basically means almost undetectable. And I also have apple cider vinegar, so that's pretty much it. And the details of this are not really important because everybody's diet is different. But what's really great about Chronometer is it was a really good analysis of your nutrient levels. And as you can see, I am pretty much green on everything, apart from vitamin D. And of course, I've been out in the sun all day, so the sun has topped me up with that 3%. When you hover over these, by the way, you can see the foods that are the richest source of each of the nutrients, which is also really helpful because it means you can easily find things to just eat a bit more of to get your levels in the right place. And it's the same with minerals, so I'm in really good situation with all my minerals. And then protein is pretty good, probably a little bit too much protein, although there's some debate about how much protein you should eat. I'm happy with that. Lots of monosaturated fats, lots of polyunsaturated fats, and enough saturated fat. Basically, you can't eat fat without some of it being saturated, so you should never have that down to zero. Fibre, pretty good. And then there's these ratios, which are also quite key, that you've got to really have the correct ratio of certain nutrients. So omega-6 to omega-3, you don't want too much omega-6, and you can see that I'm not perfect there, but I'm in the zone. Zinc to copper, again in the zone. Potassium to sodium, pretty much correct. Calcium to magnesium, on the edges there. And I don't know what this is, this alkalinity thing, but it's good. So I feel much more confident. When I first did this analysis, maybe 6 or so months ago, I thought I was eating a pretty good diet, and then I realised when I did this that I was actually short of quite a few things. And I only had to nudge my diet in a few little directions to get things correct, but it was very easy once I had the information. So anyway, highly recommend this if you're trying to get to the point where you're basically your body's got no excuse for being ill. It's getting all the nutrients at optimum levels in all the correct ratios. So if it's going to heal itself, it's got everything it needs to achieve that. And I found that quite encouraging position to be in. But the simple sort of metric and approach that I took was as follows. Try to eat 9 cups of fruit and veg a day. And that might seem quite a lot, and it is quite a lot. And the way that I do that is I have a big smoothie in the morning, and there's one piece of fruit, which is a banana out of season, but then it's an apple or a pear if we've got those off the allotment in season. So it's one piece of fruit and then loads of leafy greens, and I try to make sure there's a balance of the ones that are full of oxalates, like the spinach family, so the beet greens, the chard, the true spinach, the New Zealand spinach, all of those sorts of things. They're kind of, you don't want too many of those, and then all the brassica leaves, and so we eat loads and loads of brassica leaves in our family, and I eat more than anybody else. So that's kind of 3 servings of leafy greens in the smoothie and 1 piece of fruit. And I make sure it's a green banana, if I can get a green banana, because it's just as good as kind of, as a way of improving the texture and the sweetness of the smoothie, but it's much healthier for you. So green bananas are massively healthier than ripe bananas. And to that I add some oil, so it's either olive oil or an avocado oil, and that's essential to improve the absorption of lots of the vitamins that are in all those greens. If you don't have those oils, then you're not going to get optimum absorption of the nutrition that's in them. And I also add a little bit, 1 or 2 tablespoons full of apple cider vinegar, and that's one of the few things that we buy, but we're going to hopefully make some of that this year. And obviously that's organic, because almost everything we have is organic. I won't need to get into the organic, not organic debate so much, but we do try to reduce exposure to toxins, and pesticide exposure is a toxin risk. You can debate how bad it is and all that sort of thing, but for me, since we can grow organic food, we do. We occasionally buy non-organic stuff. Some fruits, for example, are hard to get organic, and so we just chill about it and go with the flow. So then the next meal will be lunch, and generally I actually have cereal for that, because I actually it's a quick and easy meal that I have when I get back from the allotment at lunchtime. There's loads of nuts and seeds in my cereal, and there's no refined sugars at all. The most refined sugars are blackstrap molasses and what's the other one? Organic malt extract. And so they're full of minerals, and big thing in my diet is to get loads and loads of minerals. Loads of nuts and seeds. And then for my evening meal, I'll generally have all sorts of things accompanying a big plate of steamed veg, and normally half to 3/4 of the plate is a mix. Well, it's all steamed, but it's again lots of leafy greens and beetroot and carrots, broccoli and things like that, cauliflower and the like. And we try to have loads of colours, so we try to grow as many colourful veggies as we can. Lots of things, deep dark leafy greens, of course, but also golden beetroot and red beetroot and carrots and purple carrots, and purple cauliflowers. Basically anything we can get that's got lots of colour in it, that's what we eat. And then for supper, I'll eat a really big salad, and again that's probably 3 servings again of leafy greens, and lots of tomatoes and some dark red grapes and things like that, and lots of spring onions and the like. I do eat meat, and I eat probably 5 or 6 portions of meat, and they're only small portions,
in the whole week. So, and then one portion of fish, and then one meat-free day. And I do eat dairy, only organic, full fat, because almost all the nutrition in dairy is in the full fat. So if you're not eating that, then you're basically just getting not such a high quality protein. And yeah, that's kind of most of my diet, really. So it's pretty simple. Now, that I have to eat all those things in order to have all the nutrition that I need. And if I've done a lot more exercise than that, so if I've been hiking in the hills all day or something like that, or cycling for 2 or 3 hours, then I'll have a cheesecake or a slice of cake or a brownie or something like that, and I won't feel too bad about it because I've had all the nutrition. And generally in my life I'm a kind of 80-20 person, so I like to do the 20% of things that give you the 80% of the benefit. And you could obviously work really hard at the other 80% of things, but you only get 20% of the benefit for those. So this whole idea, do the little bit, the 20% that gives you the 80% of benefit, and then just move on to something else and optimize that. So second thing is movement. And so movement is just like massively important, I think. And I had a lot of joint destruction from the acute flares. I had lots of osteoarthritis in my shoulders and my wrists, my ankles, my knees, and pretty much all of that is doesn't bother me anymore at all. I have fairly good mobility in all my joints now, not great but fairly good, and pretty much no pain in my muscles and my joints. I do still get quite a few injuries, more injuries than I feel that I should do, and I don't recover very well from those injuries, but I kind of put that down to all the drugs messing around for all those decades with my body. It's just something wrong now with the way I produce human growth hormone or something like that. But the cures for that are worse than the symptoms. So I just concentrate on doing some good stretches, eating lots of collagen containing foods, some broths and things like that, and yeah, it's not too bad, easily manageable. But I move around a lot, so I walk a lot and I cycle and I hike. I'd like to say I swim, but I haven't sort of got around to building that into my daily work pattern very successfully. But then of course I do loads of work on the allotment, and I don't dig, but I'm bending and stretching and carrying and just generally walking around. So I'm just moving around for 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours, 3 or 4 times a week on the allotment, as well as all this walking and cycling and hiking. But I try not to wear myself out, so I don't, I try not to do more than 4 hours of what you might call work a day, and try not to put too much, overuse my muscles and my joints without giving them a chance to recover. So if I hike one day, then I'll just potter around the allotment the next day. If I do a big cycle ride, again, I'll just do a harvest or something like that. So just try and keep everything, fairly relaxed, nothing too intense. I still think, my body is not fully healed. This word remission, I don't think of it like that. I feel like I'm managing my auto-inflammatory conditions, and that's different to being cured. And I think it's you do have to listen to your body, and managing something is very much about listening to your body and knowing what you can and can't do. So sleep. Do all the basic things on sleep. So try to make sure that when I wake up in the morning, I get loads and loads of sunshine early in the morning as much as possible. So if I'm in a cafe, which I often am for the first couple of hours, I'm sitting right at the front in the window getting loads of sunlight. I always go out for a walk first thing before I even go to a cafe, and then after I go to a cafe I'll go out for another walk, and then of course move down in the allotment. So pretty much the whole of the morning I'm just bathed in sunlight, unless it's chucking it down with rain of course, but then at least I'm out. And then by the end of the day I'm trying to make sure I get no or very little blue light. So I've got all the blue light filters on all my on all my phone and my laptop and things like that. We have the brightness of the TV down a little bit. We don't have any bulbs that give off blue light. Everything is kind of nice, warm, glowy light, like pools of warm light around the house. And you know, we try and keep the white light to an absolute minimum from about 2 or 3 hours before we go to bed anyway, and sometimes more than that in winter. Then I always have a bath before I go to bed, because I do believe that being really warm in the bath and then getting out of the bath and cooling down rapidly lets me get off to sleep really quickly. So, you know, that's, you know, I'm not obsessive about sleep, but I basically do those things. Manage the light, and don't eat. So I try to stop eating at 7:30, go to bed about 10:30, so I'd stop eating 3 hours before I go to sleep. So yeah, that I think those are the main things relating to sleep. So relaxation, well, the allotment life is extremely relaxing, but I try to just have a generally really relaxed pattern to the day. Go out for a walk first thing in the morning, go to a cafe for a couple of hours, you know, very relaxed, sort of reading, research, play some mind games, and just have some fun, chat to friends that I have there. And then I'll sort of arrive at the allotment about 10 o'clock, do about 3 or 4 hours on the allotment in summer, or spring and summer when it's busy, much less than that in winter. Unless I'm making a video like this, which seems to be running at 26 minutes already, so it's going to be long. And yeah, just sort of potter around here, just have a real nice time, chat to people, no kind of pressure. Design the allotment so it's kind of a really lovely place to be. It's got this polytunnel so I can shelter from the rain. Lots of things to do, but you know, I don't worry about very much. It's not a very weed, you know, I've got all systems in place to manage the weeds, and so I'm not spending my time doing jobs I don't like. I'm just spending my time doing jobs I do like. So, you know, it's just sort of tending things, planting things, and harvesting. It's really lovely. And I sort of arrive home about, and my wife has got allotment here, so we often spend time together, probably go out for lunch, and then come back here, work for a couple of hours, and then get home about 2 o'clock, to spend a bit of time looking after the garden at home, do some reading, do some chores, probably publish a video if I've done a video, and then go out for an afternoon walk or a cycle ride or something like that. Look after my grandson for a couple of hours, have an evening meal, and then Debbie and I, of course, always have a meal together. But often we've got kids who live in the local area, and some of them don't, but the ones that do, they come round hopefully once a week on Saturdays for an evening meal. And that's with their partners, and that's really lovely as well. Go out to the cinema, go for a walk on the beach, watch some TV, go to bed, sort of thing. So it's, you know, it's pretty relaxed. In that time, I meditate in the morning when I wake up for about 10 minutes, and I'll meditate again in the afternoon for about 10 minutes. I'll generally have a 20-minute nap if I can squeeze it in. I do love that nap. A nap in the conservatory with the sun shining on me, with the doors open so I'm getting lovely fresh air, and it's just one of my favourite times of the day. Really lovely. So that's the kind of relaxation thing. Do trying to manage what I worry about. I only try and worry about things that I can actually resolve. So if I can fix it, then I'll worry about it. If I can't fix it, I'll try and push it out of my mind. If there's something that's really bothering me, I'll write a rant. I'll write it all down in a document as like a rant, get it all out of my mind, being as kind of obnoxious and awkward and obstinate and whatever as I want to be, and then I'll just leave it. I won't send it to anybody, I won't do anything with it. It's out of my head, you know, and I find that very therapeutic. Probably do that once every couple of months. So, microbiome. I think this is really important. So I think so there's a few things you can do and a few things that I do. So just around the house, you just got rid of all these antibacterials. So all these antibacterial sprays and soaps and gels and, you know, all that stuff, we just got rid of that, because what we want is to encourage the bacteria that are going to be there anyway to be good bacteria. And if you kill everything, the good and the bad, I always think what's likely to come back is the bad, right? But if you just keep things clean, wipe things down, but just don't kill all the bacteria, what's likely to be there is the good. And the good will keep on flourishing, and the bad can't get a foothold because there's too much good there. So anybody who watches my videos knows that I like to keep things clean and tidy, and our house is clean and tidy, but we just don't clean with antibacterials. And it's the same with the body. So we're trying to make sure that we're not disrupting the bacteria that live on the skin and in the mouth. So there's no mouthwashes to kill all the bacteria, because what comes back? The bad. And then you have to do more and more mouthwashes. Don't wash my hair too much, because what happens then is that, you know, the whole bacteria on your skin, on your scalp gets out of balance. You get dandruff and stuff like that. Don't get antibacterials all over my body, because what comes back then are the smelly bacteria, give you body odour. All those sorts of things. So just try and let nature look after you and keep clean. Just don't try and strip all the bacteria away. And it's the same inside. So minimise the use of antibiotics, only have those when you really need them. If you do, try and repopulate the bacteria and feed those bacteria. And so that's all about the prebiotics. So prebiotics are the food that bacteria need to grow. And so these are things like resistant starch, which is in green bananas, and cooled potatoes. Warm potatoes haven't got much in, but if you cool them in the fridge and then eat them the next day, for example, then they're really good. And of course, all the leafy greens and the fruits and the veggies and the berries, and the beetroot and all those things, are absolutely full of all sorts of different fibres, and then in the nuts and the organic rolled oats that are in my cereal, again, lots and lots of prebiotics, prebiotic fibre, and that's what you want to try and get. And so that feeds the gut, and you want to make a special effort to feed it if you've had antibiotics, and you want as much diversity as possible, so as many different types of fruit and veg as you can get, and of course lots from the allium family as well, so lots of leeks and onions and things. There's so many really valuable fibres in there, as well as chicories and things like that. So but I think it's important to try and get as body-wide approach to that as possible. I highly recommend that. And of course, then kind of the source of the bacteria. So where do you actually get? So it's okay feeding the bacteria. Where do you get them from? And of course, I get them from the soil. So my hands are always in the soil. I don't wear gloves. I occasionally wear gloves if it's freezing, or if I'm, doing something that's, sort of in the gooseberries or something like that. But most of the time, I don't wear gloves. So my hands are always in the soil, absolutely teeming with good bacteria. There's occasionally some bad bacteria in there, but then you kind of, I trust that the good overweighs the bad. And I don't obsess about cleaning my hands, so I will clean them, but I'm not obsessed. I'm not scrubbing them. I'm not using antibacterial gels on them and things like that. If I pick some raspberries or whatever and my fingers are dirty, then I'm absolutely fine with eating those. So that's the approach that I take, and the only time I will use an antibacterial gel perhaps is if I've handled raw manures, and so there's a high chance of E. coli being present in those, and that's also perhaps when I might wear some gloves. Once I've done that and I've sterilised my hands from the E. coli, then I'll kind of put my hands back in the soil and rub them round, and then wash it off with water, so that again I'm repopulating with all those good soil bacteria, because there's millions of different, maybe millions is overstating it, but there's thousands of different types of bacteria in the soil, and 99.9%, and I might get that figure slightly wrong, are good. So yeah, that's a big part of what I think has helped me. And then I probably touched on nature in the intro to this and covered it pretty well. But I do think it's important to get some sunlight on your skin. You try to moderate that. If it's really sunny at the height of summer, then we'll tend to be down the allotment early in the day and late in the day, and we'll be at home or doing something, cinema or something, the middle of the day out of the sun. But when you can get out in the sun, when the sun levels are low, that's great. Plus, get some sun exposure early in the year, late in the year, when the sun levels are much lower. You're not going to get sunburn then, but you're going to build up the melatonin in your skin, and that's nature's natural sun defense. So pretty soon I'll start wearing a factor 15 sun cream, and then I will probably have to wear a factor 50 in the height of summer, and that's partly because I've got photosensitivity, so I never get totally brown skin, and I am overly sensitive to UV radiation. So you might not need factor 50, but I do. But hopefully other parts of my body, because it's mainly on my face, will compensate for that. So that's the out in nature thing, living in line with the seasons and all of that sort of thing. Just taking joy in growing and being outdoors and watching nature. And I love hiking as well and cycling. So I kind of like to get a lovely balance of activities. I'm definitely not spending all my time on the allotment by any means. We try to get that about 16 hours a week, and that's just about right for me. That gives me plenty to do, keeps me busy, gives me that sense of purpose, but leaves me plenty of time for all the other things I love to do. And then the purpose thing, and I have, I think, covered that pretty well already. So I think with that, I'm going to pause this video, because that's a long single take, and just see if I can think of anything else, and then I'll come back, and if not, I'll just say goodbye. Yeah, I thought of something else, and it's pretty important. I don't want to leave you with the impression that I'm completely cured. I did mention the fact that it's all about management, and I do consider myself to be still managing this disease. I don't think they ever really go away, and occasionally, I do get little reminders that I still need to be diligent. So, for example, we went down to London, where one of my daughters lives, and I was down there for 7 days, and after 6 days away from the allotment, so away from all these things, my normal nutrition, my normal movement, my normal sleep, my normal relaxation, my normal exposure to the soil bacteria and nature and all that, the rash, which is the first sign of adult onset Still's disease, came back all over my legs, and I got really bad pain in my feet. And that lasted for about 4 more days after I got back, and it just slightly dissipated. So that was a kind of reminder that it is some combination of those things, and who knows which things it really is, and I'm not prepared to experiment because I don't want it to come back. But I think try all those things, or all the things that are available to you. You might make some progress, like I did. I still occasionally get this incredibly itchy rash. So I had it in 2014, I had it in 2015, then I was 3 years without it, and then I have just getting over it now. And that was really severe, and I had to go on steroids to get over that. And again, we don't know, nobody knows what it is. Could be Still's disease, because that does have an itchy rash for some people, but didn't have any of the other markers of Still's disease, so it's a bit of a mystery. But I kind of put it into this auto-inflammatory category. It was definitely something. It wasn't an infection, and it was definitely inflammatory. So yeah, but it was, I went 3 years without it, and hopefully I'll have 3 years without it again. But I did use the tools. I use the steroids because it's important to get these things back under control, because when you've got an incredibly itchy rash like that, everything is wrecked. Your sleep goes to pot. You definitely can't relax. You can't really. I couldn't really do very much on the allotment. I was too demoralised. So I wasn't moving around as much. I was comfort eating, so my food nutrition wasn't as good as it should be. I definitely didn't feel much of a sense of purpose in my life, and I wasn't getting as much time in nature as I could, because I was basically covered in ice packs, trying to keep the inflammation under control for a week or so. But broke that cycle. Steroids helped me break that cycle, and I got back into a virtuous cycle. I gradually improved, and after about 6 weeks I'm back to normal again. So definitely that. And I still have a restless leg, which I kind of put down to all the medication that I had to have for all those years. It basically messed something up, and I don't know what it messed up, and nobody does. But basically, I still got the restless leg thing, keeps me up at night. And so I do have a medication to manage that, a really low dose. But again, I'm not afraid. I'm not a purist. I'm not one of these people that say, I'll only eat organic, or I won't take any medications, or I won't do whatever. To me, they're all just tools to be used appropriately, and as long as you use them carefully in this sort of 80-20 thing, so use as minimal dose that you can to get the biggest effect. Don't try and get rid of it completely, because then you'll end up on a massive dose in order to try and get rid of it completely, but just take enough so that you can sleep reasonably well. Don't try and get it completely gone, type of thing. So that's kind of the approach that I take. And I still occasionally get migraines. I used to have loads of migraines again when I was in this sort of cycle of decline for all those years, all those decades. But now it's probably only once every 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. And again, I do take a medication for that. But I won't take a preventative medication, because again, for me, it's better to just take that short, sharp, one-off dose, rather than taking something every day, and then taking something for the side effects of that thing every day, and then taking something for the side effects of the side effects. But some people, I'm not a doctor, I'm not prescribing here, I'm just saying what I do, and you can take it as you will. So yeah, definitely not what I would say completely cured, definitely managing, definitely having a very good life, and definitely enjoying myself one heck of a lot more than I did for all those years when I was not managing things as well as I'm managing them now. So that's pretty much it. Now, I hope you found it useful. I mean, it's not my typical allotment video, but yeah, as I say, quite a few people have asked what I do and how I do it and why I do it, and that's the answer to all those questions. So I'll see you soon. It's lovely to get feedback, and are you managing these sorts of conditions? What have you tried? And so I'll see you soon. But my closing message is, take a multifaceted approach. Try and do as many of the things that I talked about if you want to try this, as I did, and it takes time. It took me at least 12 months to make real significant progress, and then 18 months before I kind of considered myself to be kind of in remission, although not totally in remission. The body, when you let the body heal at its natural rate, it's not something that's going to happen overnight, so you've got to keep chipping away at it. And the benefit is that all of these approaches, nutrition, movement, sleep, relaxation, getting a healthy microbiome, spending loads of time in nature, living a purposeful life, all those things are just great anyway, regardless of whether they improve an auto-inflammatory or an autoimmune condition. They're just really good things to do. They'll just enhance your life anyway. Yeah, I'll be interested to see if anybody gives it a go, whether you've already tried it and how it's succeeded for you, and I'll see you soon.